Funny thing is, I come here and I think we sat down, you and I, right off the rip, because I brought like $8,000 back, and when you come to Brentwood with 5 kids and $8,000, you can live about an hour and a half.
You and I have been friends for 100 years now. But when I first met you, you were in medical sales.
Yes, sir.
On the corporate track.
Yes, sir.
Time management, carrying a calendar, and all of that, and now you play in the dirt. What happened? Tell us how Cultivate happened.
Yeah, so you're right. You've been around since the very beginning. When I started, just through the adoption of Bristol, basically, working in a family-owned business and having that gravy train. With Dad set that up. The boys were I was the oldest, and so just sort of leading the pack and like, well, this is just what you do in the South.
Right.
You just start a business, and then my wife came to me and after the 3 kids, Briley, Braxton, and Barron said, I think the Lord's calling us to adopt. I was, obviously attending a Brentwood Baptist Church and going to the Sunday school and doing the thing. And so, I spoke to a few people about that because that had never been something we had talked about.
Right.
But I didn't know that God was going to use that whole process to really just, what I call is like, I hit a season of like being spiritually so discontented.
Right.
With this, and you were helping me along to discern in that period of time, like what in the world is this?
Yeah.
Like,
because you had
everything.
You had everything.
Yes,
right?
sir.
But I think your story is important here because I think there's a lot of guys right now that are really disappointed. Here I am at 35, 40. I've accomplished what I thought I wanted to accomplish. I have everything, except I'm not happy.
And I think that's where it led me in 2010 is like, there's the barn story where I went to the barn on my property, and it was not an overly spiritual attempt to get close to God. It was just like, it was purely out of like, I've got to get some answers, So I tell people I took a can of snuff, a Bible, and I had my horses, and my dogs down there. And I think it was the first time at 32 that I was really fully present for the Lord to be able to speak to me, even as a Christian growing up in a Christian home. It's like, if you don't show up, I'm not sure that I can follow you anymore kind of conversation. Like it's not holding water for me. Like, I don't have a job security issue. I definitely don't have a paycheck issue. My mom and dad are still married and alive, and my siblings. And so there was never really a traumatic onset for me of like, it was just a long season of grinding out. Is this what God knew when he knew me before I was in my mother's womb, when I was in his womb before my mother's womb? Is this what he had for me to do? And that question, I couldn't answer. So I spent that time, even came out of the barn. I think that's when we started following up. It's like, I don't know. I just know that I'm not where I'm supposed to be. The road I'm on is not going to take me to. It was almost like a Scrooge kind of flyover of life, and I'm not going to get to. I'm going to get there, but that's not probably where I'm going to want to end up. And so, so we, I started meeting with the church leaders and pastors and friends, and saying, this is where I am. And I remember the day I wrote missions or politics in my journal, and I circled both because I was so confused. I really didn't know. And missions was, when I say it had never. I knew missionaries, and I didn't want to be a missionary. I just had this image from Dixon, people coming back from Asia every 8 years. Their kids look like, they didn't belong in the States anywhere.
Wearing funny clothes.
I hope everybody receives this well. But I just, when missions started, when God started calling me, I think my first response was, nah, man.
Yeah. Now, to give folks some context, when you wrote politics, that was a viable thing.
Very viable option.
Because your family and your dad,
yes, sir,
is
and I had even like invitations from people that were in the community and church with us to say, we've got this district seat opening up at the State House. You're a young, energetic, well-connected guy because of obviously my father, and this would be a great space. So, I mean, I was like, that approval part of me, like, this is one more rung up the social ladder in Brentwood and church and whatever. So, man, that had an appeal to it that was really appetizing to somebody that's wired like me. And so but then the Lord just kept, through Courtney's prayers and our prayers collectively for the first time in a 10-year marriage, was like, we just got to hit the mat together. Like, we don't have anything else that we can offer each other. And God began to slowly reveal that, he was calling us to missions. And I remember being in South Carolina. We had a house by Lake Jocassee out there in Greenville, close to Greenville, and she rolled over, and I looked at her. We had been on this journey of of tension and just like, what are we gonna do? You can't be this miserable all your life, like. And so it was. We were out there for the weekend, and I rolled over, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna calf rope. I'm gonna go to missions. Okay, I'm gonna be a missionary. And I remember rolling over and waking her up, and she rolled over, and I could take you to the spot in my mind right now. I'm already there. But I said, I think we're supposed to go to missions. And she looked at me and she said, I've known that for a long time, Joey. I've just been waiting on you to get there.
Ooh.
And I remember tears just rolling down my face thinking, that was I didn't know how she was going to respond to that. Again, you marry somebody because you've already done that equity research about where the safe path is and how you're going to get there. And I was basically telling her, we're going to purposefully dismantle this for the sake of Jesus and the cross, if we truly believe in it. But sitting here 15 years later, she's been the diesel behind that engine for like the entire time, even leading up to that. And through your counsel and others, we ended up with a mutual friend of ours, John Thomas, and Living Hope on the tip of the continent of Africa, which again was a mind-blowing sort of connection, and ended up there for 5 years and being tooled and taught and trained in a ministry.
For those who may not know about John and Living Hope, why don't you give them a little background?
Yeah, so it was when I started, had been a 20-year partner of my home church, Brentwood Baptist, and so my dad said, if you feel called to missions, you need to start talking to your missions department at your church. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I just started talking to people there at the church, and specifically, and I remember John being in town in Averill, and John set me down and said,
if you don't know John, if you talk to John, you'll end up in South Africa.
And he told me that he had a plan for my life.
That's right.
When I sat down with him in the cafe. And I didn't know him, but I knew his accent and his energy was something I wanted to press into. Yeah. Like, you got that kind of energy for the kingdom of God.
This is a man, just to give you real quick background, pastor of a medium-sized Baptist church in Cape Town, South Africa, is brokenhearted by the AIDS that was happening in the township literally across the street from the church. Massapumalele.
Yeah.
About half or something, 30%, 40%.
Yep. AIDS and tuberculosis. So it was
and related.
47% unemployment, 35% AIDS and tuberculosis.
Yes.
So it was, and it's 45,000 people on 1 square mile. And the church is literally like, so for reference, a mile, half a mile, maybe that.
And so he starts leading his church to do that and ends up with one of the premier AIDS treatment centers in the world. I mean, this is known around. People come from all over the world to figure out what this little church is figuring out. Now, the good news was people started responding to treatment, getting better, and going home
without jobs.
Right. So he comes to us and says, we need to have a jobs program. It's like, what? We built the hospital and all this. No, now we have a jobs program. Right. And then that's where you come in.
Yeah, because he's like, we got a jobs program, but we just need an ignition switch for it. Like, and with my passion and energy and 10 years of building healthcare, I was like, and in my mind, because people listen to me talk, and in my accent, it's like, yeah, he just came from a farming background, right?
Yeah.
He just knew how to farm. Actually, I would have been better suited running the healthcare center
right.
that they had built because of my background in healthcare. But again, God had other plans. And when we got over there, and John actually introduced me to greenhouses, he calls them tunnels, and I never knew what he was talking about until we went, and I was like, oh, a greenhouse. And he started showing me and casting vision for like, this could be this could be this. And so I was like, I love being outside, I love hunting and fishing. And so I was like, I think so. I think this would be something we could sink our teeth into. Obviously, it came back to the church. The church invested in a couple of greenhouses. And we started growing tomatoes. And I didn't know how to grow tomatoes. And we got, I remember walking around as a business guy in Cape Town. And I went to Food Lovers Market. Is like, let's say the social equivalent of like a Whole Foods here. And I went to their corporate office. I'll never forget this. And I asked for the procurement or buying agent there. And I ended up in a guy's office and sort of told him what I was doing. And we entered into a contract for unrefrigerated Crown on tomatoes. So like fresh off the vine at 8 a.m.
Right.
It was part of their Black Empowerment Project, which was trying to get everybody skilled for white-owned businesses in the Cape, Western Cape primarily. Now they've grown across other places in South Africa. But so we bought the greenhouses from a Zimbabwean farmer. He was 63 years old, and he put his life on mine for 5 years. Basically doing the farming while I did the business and mentorship and worked alongside folks in the greenhouses. It grew to be wildly successful within the portfolio of Living Hope. So like, they've got addiction centers, hospitals. This was just the job and workforce development arm. And so we saw 26 small businesses start out of there.
Okay.
We started doing some really creative things.
Now, when I came to hang out with you, you were throwing cucumbers and other plants like that in tubs of water.
Yep, hydroponically.
Hydroponic, and in the water was tilapia.
Yes. So they were literally taken, again, don't confuse me with the brains behind what I was a part of, but so basically taking a above ground swimming pool,
right,
and filling it with 5,000 liters of water and putting 750 fish in it, okay, and then putting floating styrofoam trays in it with like seeds of lettuce. So the lettuce is coming down through the styrofoam, growing at the top, and the roots are literally just floating on top of the water.
Yeah,
which was mind blowing to me, right? And then the effluent water from the fish, they would spray over 22,000 worms and collect what would be worm castings or worm tea, they call it. And then they would reuse that over the plants to create these supersonic growing you saw it all with your eyes. And then they would eat the fish every 9 months. And you're like, well, this is the most amazing closed loop food system that I've ever seen.
Nothing in this process is
so, and I think, like, we'll get to where I'm at now, but I think that's where my intrigue came, is like looking at food equity around the world. Was the beginning of me thinking, I see starving people every day in Masapumalele.
Right.
And it's literally, you've heard John Thomas say, a 4-lane highway separates them from the richest people in the world, literally mineral rights holders. And it's you can sit there and look both ways, and it really does something. If you're from the Western world, from America, like I grew up, it's like, wait, how can two such polarizing places exist 20 yards entrance to entrance and be so different,
right?
And be so I guess just indifferent to the plight of each. And it was both ways. It wasn't just a white or a black issue. It was just like this. It was just the purest cross section of richest and poorest in the world. It's the way John describes it. That that you'll ever see, and I would agree with him on that. But I started looking at food. And what the choices for food were. And I remember the winds of change blowing in my life again after 5 years of being down there. Again, I try to say this every time that I get the opportunity, but South Africa was why God took me there. It was to give and impart on me a heart for food, food insecurity, food equity, the things that like now really resonate within my spirit.
Now let's understand. This was not just a hobby out behind the hospital. This was several acres
Full on farming,
full of tunnels and farming.
Yeah.
Where the recovering patients would work, learn the skill that they could take back to their villages, that would feed their villages, and we were selling the produce in the local grocery stores. If you went to the vegetables section,
they had a running reel. Like eventually they realized that we had flipped what we would call buyer's choice on them.
Right.
And they were requesting the Living Hope tomatoes.
Yeah,
right.
And so you would have grown on Living Hope farms.
And then they would have like, I remember the day I came into Food Lovers Market and they had these new big screen TVs. Yeah. And I was like, there's Einstein. Wait, there's a tie. And they had been out there videoing, and what they basically were giving the buyer is this sense of you want to eat well, we want to have the best quality product. That's right. But you can do that and socially make change, through the investment in this organization. Right. Yeah. And that entrepreneurially and still in my spirit is like nonprofits are going to have to evolve just like everything else in the world, right? And so like I was just telling somebody this morning, I don't know that God, his I got you moment for me was like I took a businessman out of the business world, put him in the nonprofit world to just move him through over 20 years so that when sustainability and other income related questions come up about how we sustain ourselves, I want to be a part of that.
Right.
I find that that's where my fuel comes from. But we had set up basically a commercial business selling the wares of the farm, which is food. The reason I fell in love with it is because there's not a person that's going to hear this podcast that won't eat 3 times, that won't need sustenance today and they won't want it to get good food. And so it's not something like the other things which are totally good, but like bracelets and, carved objects and whatever from Africa. This was something universally that we could sit down anywhere in the world at a plate of food with. Right. And religion didn't keep us apart. Politics wouldn't keep us. Like we're all going to be at that place at some point today. And so, again, I just learned that by watching and observing the South African movements. Yeah. Again, those polarizing dynamics that play in their social structure. And then Courtney and I began to hear the winds of change. Again, if you heard them once, they're easier to pick up on the second time.
And you come back home.
I tell people we took 4 kids and we lived on the side of the Atlantic Ocean and something happened, but we brought back 5 kids. And Baylor very well. My wife got pregnant. We had a beautiful little girl that lived over there 13 months. She's going into 6th grade here in Brentwood now. But I think when the winds of change started blowing back to 2015, y'all sent us in 2010 as missionary. We'd been there about 5 years, and we had a few opportunities, which I brought up with like you and others. Like there was some nonprofits in Ethiopia. There's one in Rio de Janeiro that wanted basically what Living Hope had been able to do there in the food and workforce development game in their already established nonprofit structure, just like Living Hope had done. And the more we prayed into it, the more we were like, I just felt like God saying, I'll never forget sitting at a computer and researching the population of South Africa, 53 million. And then out of random interest, I just said food insecurity in America, and it said 48 million. Yeah. And I was sitting there going, wait, my church sent me to come serve in a place whose population is almost in total the amount of hungry people we have walking around in our country, right? I just remember that setting with me like, wait, there's a huge opportunity for Christians to be on the tip of the spear of something that I need academia and I need resource from the U.S. to come behind. Political folks, people to get behind this so that we can build something that's way bigger than me. Let it be Lord Jesus, because I can get in the way of that, but like something that people can really come in and take that we can hand off instead of me going to different places. I just begin to see myself as like, I could bounce around, but that'd be a lot of fun.
Right.
There's some exotic. Me and Courtney living in Rio wouldn't be a bad deal. You know, they take care of you, and y'all would have protected us and made sure that. But that wasn't it. You know, God, I remember talking to you a bit about it, and it's like you got to ask the Lord to increase your desire, take it away. You know, like just follow the open doors, and it just kept being like go home. And funny thing is, I come here and I think we sat down, you and I, right off the rip, because I bought like $8,000 back, and when you come to Brentwood with 5 kids and $8,000, you can live about an hour and a half. And so I said, well, I'm gonna go see my buddy at the church of my pastor. So me and you sat down, and you gave me some wise counsel that day. You said, obviously, I'm 15 years into this, and there's never been a moment when I doubted whether or not I was going to eat or my family was going to be taken care of. So, but you looked at me and you said, you're fine. We're going to pursue this together. And you keep running your lanes and setting the traps, and let's see what God does. But don't worry about what you're worried about. Yeah. Like, don't make a reaction based on your bank account.
Right. Yeah.
Like, let's just work this out. And if you need me, I'll be in my office or whatever, you know, like sort of that kind of go home, go to bed, get up, do your thing. Right. If you need me, call me, you know. And so I realized that, and you know, the men and women that we both know personally who undergirded that and said, we're going to support this while we get to figure out what God's doing in it. So, we got mutual friends that have just been around us forever and have helped me get started.
So you come back, you literally got nothing.
Nothing.
You go from a really successful, engaged ministry, you come here, there's nothing. And then God starts opening some
crazy doors.
I mean, doors we weren't even knocking on.
No, the governor didn't even know. So Governor Haslam, who we're mutual friends with, but he and I had started praying together when I'd come back on furlough. Nothing more than I had a mutual respect, like a huge respect for him, and so I'd go see him. And when I got back, I said, you know, what are you doing now? I started this nonprofit. I'm trying to get it off the ground, and well, why don't you go see my commissioner, Julius Johnson? I'm like, well, I didn't know Julius from a bar soap, you know. I'm like, okay, that's his way of putting me off.
That's right, yeah.
You know, like I understand you're busy, Governor Haslam, but you know, I'm broke and I need you to help me out, kind of thing. When I met Julius Johnson, I met him in Steve Bennett's greenhouses, which Steve is also our friend in church, friend. But I remember pulling up a chair and this older gentleman, I guess Julius was probably 65, 70 at the time. He came in and I'd been praying like, God, give me something. I mean, you've given me favor, obviously. Right. This man's meeting with me on his way to the big house in Columbia and on his way from Columbia. And so I just started praying, Lord, give me. And so he sat down with me at a picnic table in a greenhouse with coffee that Steve had set out, or his staff. And so we would just begin to talk. And you know that sense when somebody walks up, you know you got the same God. Like, I was like, okay, I'm hearing this, like just a gentle, grandfatherly kind of, tell me what we're here for, kind of. And so I just took a deep breath and I said, I went around and I walked around today and I prayed that God would help me make the most use of your time, because I know this is valuable time. And I think he told me what to ask you for. And I'll never forget, Julius says he laid his pen down because he had a pad of paper. And he goes, oh, he did he? And I said, yes, sir. And then I didn't talk like this. I mean, it wasn't me. It was. And I said, God told me that you were going to be the one that gave me land. And when I said that, there wasn't not 5 seconds of pause in the air. And he said, I can do that. And I was like, this is going okay. And I'm thinking land like what we're sitting on right here. Like got a little outdoor garden spot, you know. Realized within 2 hours how much power he held, because he sent an email and 20 people were copied on it. And immediately it started just going. Met him at his office and we drove down to where he cultivated it. Started. Right. It's a lot of places now, but I remember him sliding his SUV down a hill and going around that curve and looking at that 8 acres and literally getting out and saying, will this do? Yeah. Right in the middle of Nashville.
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and I remember sitting there going, will this do? Like, how do I hide?
Yeah,
You it's like, you got any more around the corner?
Yeah,
we can
you don't
look
want to do
at
a moonwalk here on this thing.
I was like, We've since become, I love Commissioner Johnson. He was used by God and put there, you read in the Bible of, and Governor Haslam too. Like, when I asked Commissioner Johnson, why did you do that for me when we were getting our second piece of property from the state through the State Building Commission? And he looked at me and said, Joey? I said, yes, sir. He said, I've never told you this, but I know how to read an organizational chart. And I realized he was telling me when it came from the top.
Yeah, yeah.
And the governor had said, let this happen if you can make it happen. And so basically what he was saying is, I'm glad you're grateful to me, but I'm following orders. And I know that those orders came from even higher than that.
Yeah.
And these men of God were placed in a position to do now what has been done. Basically, we went from that. The first people that pitched up were criminals coming out of incarceration.
Because the most important crop that you invest in isn't the food.
It's the people.
It's the people who work and cultivate.
The food was, it was God's way to get me interested.
Yeah.
And you think about and I'm still interested in food. Like I love to talk about the foods as far as future church and utilization of land.
Yeah.
You've been in those discussions with me, but the people is where God, my heart for people and for addicts, especially because I realized how much of one I was through the process. Like, oh my Lord. And that journey is still expressing itself in my life that, I'm not building something for these men and women that have benefited. I'm building it for me. Like God's given me the ability to be so close to addiction that in my own way I can fight it at times because you've been around. They're the most transparent and vulnerable people you can be around because they've hit rock bottom. And I've been able to share my heart in Brentwood in a safe place where I didn't have to worry about somebody going, oh crap, you did that, or and so so we just started off with a couple of dudes working with me. We grew 10,000 pounds of food in 16. And I remember thinking we won the Super Bowl. It's 4 plots, 10,000 pounds. And we jumped around and hugged and kissed. And they had been sober for 6 months. And I was trying to get sober. And we were just all trying, that whole life of just like.
Right.
And I remember just being like, oh, Lord, let it be. What are you doing? And so we just started building brick by brick and block by block and making sure that the Lord's name was on every, trying the best we could, and just our human brokenness to be like, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to do it, Lord. You're going to have to do it. So we've graduated 170-ish people into employment through a 1-year work program that we developed. I've now 6 farms, all ran by prior graduates who have taken ownership behind what I would call underutilized property behind churches. I begin to be heartbroken for the amount of land that churches have that they pay to have mowed. You and I have talked for years about this landscape of church future and what we could do with that to create community and actually flip our hand on we do care and we are going to invite you to our property. Yeah. You started doing this, the church started doing this behind Brentwood Baptist years ago through some people.
Well, through some gardeners.
Yeah.
We had senior adults who were selling their and downsizing.
Yes.
They loved to garden, didn't have a garden anymore.
Yes, sir.
We had young adults who wanted to garden, but lived in a condo or an apartment. So this beautiful friendship between
it's still there.
Between the senior adults and these young people.
Yeah, it's still there.
And the pride of harvesting the first cucumbers or the first strawberries.
Yeah.
And coming up to my office going, hey, we just picked these this morning.
Here you go, Pastor.
That's right. Yeah.
Here you go, Pastor. You're like, this is pretty good.
It's not bad.
Jenny's going to love this.
It's not bad.
And for me, catalyzing okay, we did have food anxiety creep into every American home during COVID.
Right.
So an awareness began to be there to, I think, where we're going to have a transitional avenue for food equity. We're working on some real creative things to allow for some of that to happen because We know that people want to eat food, know where their food's coming from, know how clean it is, know what people are doing, how they're getting it. But we also know that there's probably a place in there for them to eat healthy and do what John did in South Africa. You know, you eat healthy, but you also support those that are underserved, and food education, through relationships with the government, through stuff like that.
Now, you know, I've had the privilege of knowing this whole story.
Yes, sir.
And being part of it, and your family, and all of that. Sitting out in the pew, you, beautiful family, everything. If we're going to do American Family, we're going to do you and Courtney, and those beautiful children. And here you are. You leave all of that on this great adventure. So for those friends of ours who are sitting out there, who are just like you, in that, okay, I'm 40, I wanted to do this, and I've done it, and or I've got the trophy, and it's not all I thought it was going to be.
Yes, sir.
What do you tell them?
The way that I have and continue to fall forward into what God has for me is just, delayed or partial obedience is not obedience at all. Like my wife keeps having to say to me, I'm a slow learner, and you know that. But like, if you hear God speaking to you, there's nothing. I've told you this. If you could wind back the clock to when you and I first spoke about this, and somebody said, "Here's a $10 million check to keep you from doing and experiencing," you're fine.
Yeah.
Just, it's almost like Uncle Wormwood, screw tape to where, like, you're fine. The enterprise is, you just stay out of the game. Now more than ever, I'm seeing people like you're describing come and say, like, that it's a revival of sorts, like early retirement, and through technology, people are experiencing more quicker, so they're realizing these buckets don't hold water. Right. So we're going to go take a look at this Bible thing over here.
Exactly.
Like, let's just go see some of these Christian folks that are running around. And so I just...
Or the happiest guy I know is Joey Lankford.
Yeah.
I want to go hang out. I want to go see what he's talking about. I want to go see what Joey's learned.
Yeah. And then to get down there and realize that I think the ministry of vulnerability and like transparency, like, no, I'm truly happy, but it's not, my marriage is still, day to day, like, and my finances aren't, but there's a peace that surpasses all understanding. When God says that in his word, he means it. And I would say to dive into that, man, to dive into his word and just ask that, and I always tell people, if you pulled up at a stop sign right down here and you looked over and the Lord was knocking on the window and you rolled it down, is there anything that he could ask you to do that you wouldn't do?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about the dude that we profess to worship. Yeah. Like, if he said, "Hey, can you go to Dixon?" And I can do that. But if he asked you to do something that was maybe more costly than that, where is your checkup point? Like, what are you holding back from? Because I can tell you that, like, it's more broken and beautiful than anything you can ever do. Like, I sit here as a project, like, but I'm his son, and I can leave after this podcast, and you and I know that anything can happen, right? But the sensitivity to his voice, both in the good times and the bad, like, it's okay, son. I mean, I've been beat up too in the last 15 years, but it's okay. Man, do I understand more about his mercy and grace and his love than I ever have in my entire life. Yeah. It means something when somebody says, God's mercy met me here, his grace met me here. No, I get that. Yeah. I'm with addicts every day who've been 22. Our average incarceration around the leadership table is 13 years. Like, I'm with people who have literally been at the bottom. And I was at an AA thing the other day, and there's a guy that was walking out with me, and he starts to talking about the AA, and I said, I got to tell you something though. I've been around like addicts for 9 years now, going on 10.
Right.
Every single one that I've met who has a sustainable life has met Jesus Christ at somewhere. You can say anything you want to me. Every single person that I have met that has a peace that
high power has a name.
It has a name.
Yeah.
It has a name, and it has a feel. And when you meet him, there's my leadership team, 2 of them met him in a jail cell. Like 22 years in prison, 10 years in prison. These men are discipling men and women right now towards kingdom of God like nobody I've ever been around, because they met Jesus, right? There's not a lot of education with that. That's an encounter. And that's a long way of answering your question, but like, just put yourself in the posture and ask that God would continue to reveal to you what his destiny is for you, not your destiny. Like, I still don't know. I mean, I'm sitting here today, like, I know what I'm doing right now, but if you said, are you going to run for politics? And like, I get this all the time, like, okay, when you get to 1 million pounds of food a year and you're graduating, is that it? Are you going to franchise this? Are you going to do something with it? And I'm like, I mean, God knows enough about me to keep me on the short rope, right? I mean, if I could see next year, I'd be standing there by the first of next month.
Yeah, that's me.
And he's not willing to let me do that. And so I, by his grace, I still don't know the answers to the questions I just posed to you. Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to try to.
You're going to be faithful today.
Yes, sir. Day by day.
You get the manna you need for the day.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's end this story with our favorite story.
Yes, sir.
John Thomas, our buddy, gets sick. And
you asked me to tell that.
It is a serious illness. And John gets really down to the point that I'm reading his podcast and everything.
Realizing it.
And I'm realizing this guy's hurting. The Lord says to me, if he'd been in town, or if he'd been in the States, you'd already be there. And I had put off going to, every time, I don't like travel.
Right.
I don't like the peanuts on an airplane. I don't like nothing.
Right.
And your daughter had walked up to me and said, because I hugged her and said, I love you. She said, well, you don't ever come see me.
The Briley that we both know.
Okay. Worked it out. We can't. I called you and I said, I'm going to come see John, but don't tell John.
Yep.
And you drove me over there, and we walked up on his front porch, and he wouldn't let us in the house. Remember that? He kept
you
looking
had a
at
hat
me.
on. He didn't know who you were.
I kept telling
and we hadn't seen him for 6 months out of his house.
Yeah.
But what I told you like he was
sick.
Deathbed sick, right?
He was sick.
Yeah.
And
so I tell this story, probably, I don't know if you know this, but in that moment, Cedric had just died, and you'd helped me walk me through a friend's death with his spouse in Ocean View earlier that day, I think, or the day before.
We've been down there.
Your timing was God's timing, but so we walked through that, and then you were going to go see John, and Tracy had arranged for him not to know and us to be there and him to be there. And so my church pastor from the States, my mentor from South Africa, and here we are pulling up in that Land Rover, and then he was confused. Like, he was like, and he's had his little old man jogging pants on and his shirt. I was like, Lord help. I mean, somebody needs his Avril home. Like, we got to get this guy some clothes, But once he did notice, I remember the embrace. I remember the tears. I remember y'all going into his house. And then I remember you asking John, is there a place that I could go and fetch you a basin? I remember I knew what was coming when I heard you say that. I remember standing there going, that's not the way I had this planned out. And so he said, under the sink. I went and got it. You told me to fill it with warm water. And I stood there and I got the opportunity to see 2 heroes of mine. I got to see you kneel down and wash his feet. I got to see him receive that. I got to see y'all talk and say things that I will only know. Because I was blessed by God to be in that room and hear y'all talk. About life and ministry and struggles, and it was a pretty emotional and defining moment in my life. I got to see the heart of 2 men I get to because and I know but in the life of a public person, you get to hear everything about anybody, whether you love them or not. You're gonna hear it. And I always tell people, you don't have to really speak to me about those guys. I've seen the heart of men, and there's been others that know. But when you're young and wet behind the ears in ministry, and you get to see people who are further down the road and who you love and consider to be great leaders and lovers of Jesus, in that posture, it does something to you at a soul level.
Yeah. I remember he asked me, he said, why are you here? And I said, John, Jesus told me to come over here and pray for you.
Yep. And if you left like 24 hours later, I think.
If I pray for you and go get back on the plane,
then I've done what I've
done what I've had.
And
to
you
do.
Did do that. I think you preached the Sunday and then preached the following Sunday.
Yeah.
And that's a 27-hour or whatever flight back and forth.
They didn't even know I was out of town, really.
Yeah, I mean, again, as a young minister and somebody that lives off approval a lot of the times, and my wiring, it, you've been around it, you've seen it at its best and its worst. That was a real defining life moment, a stake in the ground moment. Yeah. And I've told you that before, I don't know what God's going to do, but if I get one way or the other, I've got that as a reference point for what true humility in ministry looks like. And I think I'm on a pursuit to try to figure that out in my own life. But it's been a journey, and I'm grateful to be here with you today.
Yeah, we are grateful you're here.
When your staff reached out or whatever, and Maggie said, is this something? I was like, 100%. Like, this is a friend-to-friend conversation. This is not a normal. Yeah. Like, this is my pastor, and
who knows stuff.
He sent me to Africa. He helped me to get there, and he helped John to figure out what the calling was for me. So.
Oh gosh!
So it's just been a lovely journey, and I'm forever grateful to you and so many others. Grateful for the opportunity to be a voice for the Lord. I think for the church, let's rethink how we steward our land.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean,
this is Joey Lankford, great friend, missionary, real deal.
Yes.
Find more out about Cultivate at cultivate.org,
CUL2VAT.org, and you can find out more there.
It's the real deal. This is the Engaged Church Network podcast, and I'm Mike Glenn, and we are very, very glad you've joined us today. Thanks for tuning in to the Engaged Church Network podcast. We exist to train healthy and skilled leaders for congregations throughout Middle Tennessee. If today's episode helped you, share it with a fellow leader, and don't forget to visit engagedchurchnetwork.com for more ways to grow.